Hey everybody, welcome back to Dead Reckoning TV. I'm Jay Friesen, along with the illustrious Dr. Brian Madsen, with a special. I mean, really, all of our In Honor of the Pigs are special.
Everything we do is special.
Everything
Jay,
we do is
because
special.
You're special. I'm illustrious. You're special.
The reason, anyway, it's not special. But this week's In Honor of the Pig is
honor of the deer or the elk.
In honor of the deer or the elk. You know, there's a lot of people who believe killing animals is wrong. They feel it's, you're being mean to the animal. You're, in some cases, you're being unbiblical. And so what I wanted to ask Brian today about is, because I'm going hunting again next weekend. I wasn't able to get up this weekend, but I hope to bag
How do you
an elk.
sleep at night? How do you sleep? How do you look at yourself in the mirror?
I look at myself in the mirror and sleep well at night knowing I have a freezer full of meat to feed my family.
Beautiful.
So, Brian, what does Scripture kind of say about hunting season?
Killing animals?
Yeah.
Well, I think that first and foremost, the thing to keep in mind is that the Bible everywhere, from the very start to finish, teaches what we might call human exceptionalism. That is, human beings do have a lot in common with animals. Obviously, this is the language of Genesis, talks about man being created by the dust of the ground and then breathed in with the breath of life. God breathes into Adam's nostrils to make him a man. Well, it's that dust of the ground that indicates our commonality with animals. I mean, obviously, we're flesh and blood, we're animate, we're moving. I mean, we have a lot in common with the animals. But the Bible teaches that human beings are exceptional. We are different fundamentally. We are created uniquely in the image and likeness of God. So it isn't true that killing animals is just like killing a human being. I mean, Peter Singer, the ethicist I almost choked on that word, the ethicist from Princeton, he would call that a speciesism, which is, it's like racism, but just as bad, thinking that people are more special than animals. And so his view is complete relativism then between animals and humans. Sometimes it might be right to save a baby chimpanzee over a baby human being, in certain ethical situations. So human beings are special, where we are have much in common with animals, and yet we are unique. We're created in the image and likeness of God. And part of being the image of God is the stewardship and cultivation of the animal kingdom. Adam names the animals. That is, he's scientifically classifying animals. Part of the human task is to cultivate the animal kingdom. And that's fundamentally what ranching is, and that's what hunting is. Ranching would be domesticated animals with cattle and sheep and goats or whatever it is. And hunting is man's stewardship over the wild animal kingdom. Human exceptionalism works like this. What's the difference between, I'll give you a quote from a 19th century Englishman. What's the difference between a man and an animal? Well, both jayhawks and humans eat chickens. The more jayhawks, the less chickens. The more humans, more chickens. Okay? More chickens. That is, with animals, food resources, scarce food resources are a zero-sum game. If you have too many of one predator, you're just going to run out of food, and your population's going to die. It's interesting that human beings have a creativity and a rationality whereby we can actually steward and cultivate and have more of something. We innovate in a way the animal kingdom doesn't. And that's what conservation is all about. Montana Fish and Game gives out a certain number of licenses. They divide up the state into certain regions. They do surveys on deer populations or elk populations, and they say, they look at weather predictions. What kind of a winter are we going to have? What is the way that we can keep the populations of these animals as healthy and strong as possible? Well, you're going to have to thin out the herd. If you get too many elk and too little food, you're going to have a vastly diminished elk population the next year. Conservation and stewardship says no. Well, why don't we have hunting licenses, give out hunting licenses, so many for this region, go out and we'll thin out the herd. We can put meat in people's freezers.
Love it.
Some people trophy hunt. Some people just want to shoot the big elk with the big thing. Fine. That's totally cool. But you know what happens a lot of times? They just keep the cape and give all the meat to the local food bank. People are getting fed. This is just a win-win for everybody. It's not just a win for us because we got meat in the freezer and it's a really fun, cool, recreational thing to do, but it's also really cool for the deer and the elk population because they're not all going to die this winter. So that's part of our image bearing. That's part of what God made us to be, is to be cultivators and stewards of the animal kingdom.
So, well, thank you. So why don't you hunt?
Why don't I hunt? Well,
can you shoot? Can you pull a bow and arrow?
I can't pull a bow and arrow. I mean, look at these guns, man. I hunt. Hunting gets pricey. Because you do a lot of driving. There's a lot of gas involved, and the only reason I would hunt is I want to put cheap meat in the freezer. And when I do the calculus, how much is this really going to cost me in terms of time and equipment and gas and all of that? I end up, I can just go buy meat at the grocery store. And it's a wash.
Yeah, that's what they say. Like the cheapest place to buy meat is Costco.
Yeah, right. If sometimes, I have in the past. In the past, I've had my brother-in-law's taken me out. He's already going.
See, my father-in-law takes me out.
Right, so I ride along, and that makes it cool. Now, if you get an elk or something, that makes it really worthwhile because you're shooting an 800-pound animal. There's just a lot of meat.
Totally.
I understand some people. I mean, hunting's not for everybody. I understand that sometimes people have difficulty shooting an animal. I mean, look, you shoot a deer.
That's fine.
They do have really beautiful, soft brown eyes and big, long lashes, and they look at you.
And we all saw Bambi growing up.
Yeah, and some people have emotional difficulties with that, and that's totally fine. I totally understand that it's not for everybody, but as cultivating and stewarding the animal kingdom as God's called us to do, hunting is a good thing.
Cool. Well, there you have it. This week's In Honor of the Pig.
In honor of the elk.
In honor of the elk.
Elk, by the way, elk meat is the finest red meat I believe you can eat. I think elk is incredible.
Delicious.
It is delicious. Lean, but rich.
I'm Jay Friesen.
I'm Brian Mattson.
This is Dead Reckoning.